In this video, we're going to take a look at drawing vectors. Now, when we say vectors, basically mean 2D lines and shapes. So anything that is a line or a shape that's not filled in will be called a vector. Okay, so it's just terminology within the software. Okay, now when you typically start a new job or a new model, it will place you within the 3D view. Now, it's entirely up to you if you want to do your drawing or your vectors in the 3D view or the 2D view. Maybe for very beginners just starting out, it may be easier to do it in the 2D view because you're less likely to rotate the actual view around within the 3D view. So if you middle mouse click and move around, it will rotate the view. Okay, now don't worry about that if you happen to do that. Just click at the top here to select view top and it will put you back into a plan view, a bird's eye view. Okay, and this is essentially the 2D view. So let's go to the 2D view, and you don't have that option in there, so you can't actually rotate this around, so it's probably a bit safer for starting out. Okay, so over on the left hand side I have all of my tools to draw vectors. Okay, now you also have a text tool in there. I'm going to cover that a little bit later in a separate video. So for the moment, we're just going to be concentrating on these 5 different options here. Okay. So the one that you'll probably use quite a lot is the first one, which is create polyline. Okay. Now I'm not going to draw anything complicated here. I'm just going to show you how the tools work. Okay. So if I click on draw polyline, you'll notice that the cursor changes. So at the moment I've got a crosshair and I've also got an S and a plus symbol next to there. Now what that is, if you take a look on the right hand side, you can see that I've got this draw smooth polylines ticked. So if I take a look, that's what that S stands for. Okay, if I were to turn that off, then I wouldn't have the S on the cursor. Below that I've got add, so add to existing line. If I turn that off, I haven't got that either. Okay, so I'll just show you how you can draw some lines. So to draw or to start drawing, what you need to do is to left click. So if I left click there, you can see that I can start drawing lines. Okay, click again and then the line will continue. So each click and the line just continues. If you want to finish, then you can either select create and cancel, or what I do most of the time is just right click. If you want to delete something or select something, then if you left click on it, it will then become this pink color, and that means that it's selected. And you can press delete on the keyboard and it just deletes it. Right, so let's open the tool again, create polyline. And this time I'm going to do it a little bit different. I'm going to add points. So this is a bit more like an engineering CAD sort of system. So let's do this at 0 and 0 inches. Let's add a point. So basically that's added a point in the center. And let's say that I want to come across by, let's say 3 inches in X and add a point. And that's then come across by 3 inches. Let's go up by 3 inches, so add a point. And then let's go back to 0 add a point, and then back to 0 and add a point. And that's how you can do more accurate engineering types of lines. Okay. Again, you can also select a point, and then you can choose how far by this dx or dy to go across. So let's say I wanted to go across by 4.5 inches, add a point, and it would just come across. Let's say that I wanted to come, let's say, another inch, and add a point, and it will come across by another inch. Okay, I wanted to go up by 1 inch. Okay, so let's go up by 1 inch, add a point. Now let's say that I wanted to go at an angle. So if I go, let's say, minus 45 by a length of 2 inches and add a point, you can see that it comes down at 45 degrees. Okay, so this is doing something more engineering. Okay, so let me right click on that to finish there. Now what you can also do is, rather than draw straight lines, so at the moment if I start drawing, you can see that I've got these straight lines all of the time. Now if I go to draw smooth polylines and then start doing that, notice how I've got this S now on the cursor. What this does, it basically blends out and creates a radius. Okay, so I can draw smooth polylines. Let's draw another polyline, and this time I'm going to add to existing line. Now what this does, it adds onto that line, because it's not a good idea to have separate vectors or separate lines, because when you come to machine them, you're going to have problems, and I'll discuss that in a later video. So if I were to hover over the end there, you can see that the cursor changes. Now what this means is this is coming onto something called snapping. So basically snapping locks to a point. So you could do that on the end point there. So if I were to click that there, even though that's not bang on the end of that line, it will automatically go to the end of it because I've got that cursor. And that's what snapping means. Okay, if I go across here to the center, you can see that that changes to a different icon. And that's telling me that it's picking up the midpoint of this square that I've created. You can do the same on the model. So if I go there, that's telling me that it's picking up the midpoint of the edge of the model. And you can also do that on the center. So if you get it somewhere near the center of the model, then you can see that that is going to snap to the center of that model. Okay. So if I click on the end there, now what this does, because I've got smooth set up, it's going to change the shape. But what I can do is draw a line there and then go to the end of there, and it will automatically join that up. The way that I can tell that that's joined up is by the green dot that I have on the left hand side of it. If it wasn't joined up, it would look like that. So I would have a green dot on the left hand side, and I've got a red dot on the right hand side. So that denotes the start and the end. So a little tip, if something isn't joined up, you'll see that you'll have a green, and you'll definitely have a red dot. So keep an eye out for those red dots. A lot of the time when you're machining, you don't want to have those. Okay, it means that something's not closed. Okay, so let's go back into it again. So let's say that I start drawing something, let's say like that, and I get so far and think, oh, I've made a mistake. What you can do, a little tip, is to press the negative symbol or minus on the keyboard. Press it, and that will go back through the steps that you created, and then you can carry on. It's a really useful tool. Another thing that you can do is press spacebar on the keyboard, and this will save you having to keep on going back into the tool if you want to create a new line or a new shape. So if I press spacebar, it keeps the tool open, and then I can just carry on drawing. So that's how you create polylines. Let's take a look at the next tool, which is rectangles. So if I select all of those, to select, either draw a box around the whole thing, or you can select individually. So click one and then shift and select whichever ones that you want to delete, and then just press delete on the keyboard. Okay, so to create rectangles, it's the next one down, click on there. And to create a rectangle, what you can do is if you left click somewhere and then hold it down and drag out, okay? And then when you let go, that becomes the size of the rectangle or the square. It's entirely up to you how you do this. There are lots and lots of different ways within Carveco Maker to do things. I'm going to try and show you all the ways that you can do things, and then you can just decide however you want to do them. Okay, what makes sense to you. So if I want to resize this, what I can do is grab that middle red button there and bring that down. I can grab that one there and bring it in. Okay, now we can also change the sizes on the right hand side. So let's say that I actually wanted this to be 9 inches by 6 inches. Now this is what I always do. I tend to just draw a rectangle any size and then change the size of it. But you can also just enter these sizes in and just click on the screen. It's just a habit that I have, just doing it like that. Okay, so when you've done that, the corner ones, they don't actually change the size of it. What they do, they change the corner radius. So if I grab one of those, you see the cursor changes. And if I bring that in, you can see that it's changing the radius. And it's also got a size here. So you can just enter a size there if you want a perfect size. Okay. You can also, what's quite useful is to invert corners. It saves you a lot of drawing. Okay. The center point, now you can move that there. So let's say that I wanted this to be, I don't know, let's say off center by -2 inches or -2 inches. So if I put -2 by -2, it will move it to wherever I want. Okay. If I wanted that to be in the center, press 0 and 0, and it would be in the center of the model. But I'll show you a really, really quick way that you can move this around later when we are editing the vectors. Okay, so to be completely honest with you, I wouldn't even bother with this center point. I never ever use it. Okay. Rotation, again, I'll show you how to do this later. What you can do is, if I wanted this to be at 45 degrees, let's say, or I wanted it to be at 90, okay, now you can also do this as a negative if you like, or you can just follow it round to do, say, 270. Okay, when you're happy with that, then select create, and then it selects the vector and it's created the vector. Then you can either select cancel or right click on the screen and it will exit the tool. Okay. So let me delete that and we'll take a look at creating circles. So you'll notice that the circle icon actually has a white triangle on the bottom right of the icon. This denotes that there's a flyout menu. So if you want to access that, what you need to do is left click and hold it down, and then it will open up a flyout menu. So there you can see there's a create circle tool, but there's also a create ellipse tool. Now, if you select one of those, let's say I select the ellipse one, what happens is that becomes the top icon. Okay, so if I were to close that, it's now the ellipse tool. Okay, so just be a bit wary of that if you're following along to a tutorial, that some of the icons may look a little bit different to what you have, because you may have used something from the flyout menu, or in the tutorial something from a flyout menu may have been used. So if I left click and go back to create circles, now circles are exactly the same thing. It's entirely up to you how you want to do these. You can enter the circle center, which is 0, 0 at the moment, and enter a diameter. Let's say I want this to be 2 inches. And you can see that it creates that circle in the center there. If I want to keep that, select create, or I can move that around, let's say 1 inch, and let's say 2 inches, and then select create. I could go back to be 1 inch, maybe -2, click create, like so. Or what you can do is just left click and drag out until you get to the size that you like. Okay, what I tend to do is just do this. I select somewhere, drag out, and then enter the size that I want, and then select create. Now, create with arcs basically means that it's going to create arcs rather than Bezier curves. I'm not going to go into this for the time being because that's going to be in a different section called node editing, and I don't really want to go there at the moment. Okay, so when you're happy, select create and then cancel. Okay, so let's select those and delete them. Ellipse is exactly the same, so create an ellipse, left click, and then drag out. Okay, and then you can enter your sizes in exactly the same manner. Again, create polygons. Now that one has got a flyout menu. So if I left click, you can see that I've got create polygons, and I've also got create stars. So if I select polygons first of all, exactly the same sort of process, left click, bring that out, and you can see that it's created this pentagon. If I want to change it, let's say to a hexagon, let's change that to 6. And then I can enter where the center is, and I can also change the radius of this, so change the size of it. Okay, so you can change this to whatever number of sides that you want to put on this. Okay, again, select create when done, and then you can close it. Stars work in exactly the same manner. So if I left click, bring that out, then what this does, because I've got over on the right hand side number of points 5, that means that it's creating this pentagon. If I bring that out to the outside size, and then when I release my left click, it will then allow me to bring them in. So if I let go now, you can see that it's changed the shape. So now if I start coming in to the center, it will start to generate a star for me. Okay, and I can choose how the star looks. Obviously I can change the sizes on the right hand side and choose whatever size I like. So when you're happy with that, left click, and then you can go over here and change the sizes. Okay, so most of the time when doing stars, it's a matter of how it looks rather than the exact size. So if I select create, and then I can close that. Okay. You've also got create arcs. So if I click on there, then you've got all these different options to create arcs. So if I left click, okay, it gives me a start point. Left click again gives me an endpoint. So if I move around to create the radius and click, and it will create the arc for me. Okay, and you have a few different options depending on how you would like to create the arc. Okay, so let's delete that. So that was how you create vectors.